Welcome to Review Journal Sports Betting Spotlight on the NFL Week 10. We're here at the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas Sportsbook on the Vegas Strip with handicapper Kelly Stewart at Kelly in Vegas and CG Technology Sportsbook Vice President Matt Holt. We'll give you 3 picks each, including our best bet, and lead it off with Kelly. Kelly, who's your first 2 plays in the NFL?
So I don't lay chalk very often in the NFL especially, but I'm going to with Atlanta -3. This is what the bettors are thinking. Dallas is off an impressive win over the Chiefs. They're now 10-2 on the road under Dak Prescott in the last 2 seasons. The Falcons have lost 4 of their last 5, just averaging 16.6 points per game. Bottom line, this game screams trap game to me. It's exactly like last week, how everybody's rushing to bet the Chiefs as 3-point dogs in Dallas. I'll lay the field goal here with the home team. And for my ugliest play of the season, Cleveland +12. It's a division sandwich game here for the Lions. I'll always take the double digits in the NFL. We've talked about that all season. The Lions are off this big game versus the Packers, which they absolutely dominated. Now they have the Bears on deck. What can I say about the Browns? I don't have much good to say. Their defense is pretty good, holding running backs to 2.9 yards per carry. And they have had 2 weeks to prepare for the Lions. That's all I got, guys.
It's a pretty good stat you dug out there.
Yeah.
Who are your first 2 plays, Matt?
I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers, fresh off that Monday night ugly loss. But really stood out to me here was the Chicago Bears laying 5 points. And I'm actually going to play both sides of the Monday night teams. I'm going to play on Green Bay and against Detroit here. First of all, I mean, the Chicago Bears 2 weeks ago in a win against Carolina, 5 total first downs, only completed 7 passes, got 2 75-yard defensive touchdowns in that game. Last week, the only touchdown they were able to score against the New Orleans Saints defense came on a penalty after her terrible face mask penalty, gave them a fumble first, and a terrible face mask penalty, gave them their only touchdown of the game against the New Orleans Saints. This offense isn't working since Mitch Trubisky took over, and I have this kind of theory I play on NFL games. Anytime the total is 38 or less and the underdog is more than 3.5, I always lean to the dog. Going to take the points here at Green Bay. I'm also going to take Detroit and I mean Cleveland like Kelly is, but the one thing that stood out to me is Monday afternoon before the Monday night game, you could have laid 9.5 with Detroit. What was so great about that Monday night performance that they're suddenly 3 points better Tuesday morning than they were Monday night? That's value because people bet what they just saw last, and what they just saw last was the Detroit Lions absolutely shellacked the Green Bay Packers on Monday night. I'm taking that extra field goal of value for no other reason. Going against Detroit on the short week, taking Cleveland +12.5.
All right, well, Detroit came through for me last week. We went head-to-head, the Lions, Packers. I hate being called a square, but I hate even more betting on the Browns. So I'm going with the Lions here, and it wasn't just because of what I saw last, it's because of what I've seen from the Browns since the beginning of last year. 1-23 straight up under Hugh Jackson. They'd be better off with Tito Jackson as coach. And I mean, the Browns, they're 2-6 against the spread this year, 6-18 since the beginning of last year, and could just how far you want to go back with how bad their against the spread record is. And they're getting outscored 25-15. The Lions can put up a lot of points. They're just 4-4, so they need these wins. And the Browns also lead the league in interceptions. And there's a lot of bad things you could say about the Browns. I'm just going to stick with fade in Cleveland. I'm also going with the Jaguars by 4 over the Chargers. I just think they're still an underrated team here, the Jags. They've covered 2 straight, 3 of the last 4. They got a great defense. They lead the league in scoring defense, 14.6. They also have one of the top scoring offenses in the league, averaging over 25 a game. So outscoring teams 25-15. They lead in scoring deep pass defense and sacks. Fournette's coming back, and the Chargers are always inconsistent. Let's move on to our best bets. Kelly, who's the best bet?
I like the Buffalo Bills +2.5 this week. The Bills are well rested. Again, what do people remember last? They just lost to the Jets. But their defense is only giving up 18.6 points per game. They have 17 takeaways on the season. This Saints team, though, what do people remember? They're on a 6-game win streak. But they face some beat-up quarterbacks in Sam Bradford, Jay Cutler, Jameis Winston, some young guys in Trubisky and Hundley. Charles Clay may be back this week, we'll see, but this is probably one of the best secondaries Drew Brees is going to face all season. Not to mention, it's always fun betting against dome teams in 30-degree weather.
That's why we moved out here, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Who's your best bet, Matt?
I'm going to go with Minnesota, Washington, under 43 points here. Minnesota hasn't allowed a team to score more than 17 points since they gave up 19 in week 1 to the New Orleans Saints. In fact, in the last 3 weeks, the Minnesota Vikings are allowing a league best 3.8 yards per play allowed, by far the best in the NFL. And both of these teams struggling on offense lately. Washington only averaging 4.8 yards per play last 3 games. Minnesota only 5.1 yards per play last 3 games. Both offenses struggling. Washington, with all those injuries on the O-line and to skill position players, actually getting some guys back on the defensive side of the ball. We saw him put a good effort on that side of the ball against the Seattle Seahawks last week. Look, I don't know how this game gets over 40. These two teams, two of the best defensive teams, neither one of them can score. Minnesota hasn't allowed a team to hit 20 all year, taking under 43.
All right, it's going to be another square play, I guess. But I'm going with the Patriots by 7.5 at Denver. They're coming off a bye week. Belichick's had 2 weeks. Belichick's had 2 weeks to prepare for Kelly's Denver Broncos. And he doesn't need 2 minutes to prepare for Brock Osweiler, but maybe he had some time.
Don't forget Brock beat them.
That's right.
Don't you forget that.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. Was that his only win? I don't know. But
his only win, yes.
Anyways,
it was a playoff win.
They beat the Broncos 16-3 last year, and that was then, and this is now. Broncos have lost 4 straight and averaged 13 points a game. Patriots have won straight and only allowed 13 points a game, as they have got their defense issues ironed out. And they're 8-2 against the spread off a bye. And I'm going with the Patriots to take care of the Broncos in Denver. Osweiler is not the answer, and not going to have an answer for the Pats. That's a spotlight in the NFL.